Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to, tonight, under my comments, just allow Mr. Hunkiar, he is in charge of our safety and security for our district. He's our Chief of Safety and Security, to come up and just give a briefing to the board about overall what we're doing related to safety and security. I've heard from all board members that they would like to have this, and also board members reserve the right, if we need an executive session, later on regarding anything or any other concerns, we could certainly do this. But John does a great job. We have a great safety team, and we've been recognized throughout the state for what this board has provided and the type of programs that we have. So John, if you'd come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent and board members. In the past, in 2007, after some national events, I had an opportunity to brief the board on many things that we're doing in the district, and I think it's really appropriate that you asked for me to come, and I appreciate it. Clearly, after what happened December 14th, this is my 22nd year in this field of study, as well as Buddy and Jamie behind me, and clearly that's the most tragic event that we've ever experienced. And the calls and the media requests that came out of it caused a lot of questions, and it's not a time to brag on yourself of the things you have that we have in the district already, but to lower the anxiety. And I know the superintendent was out visiting schools immediately thereafter, being visible. So even when it was occurring, we were receiving calls that wanted us to comment on how we would, prevent or respond to that. But obviously, the appropriate response at that time was to send our wishes. But little information, I'd like to go over a little bit about our department and talk about now some of the things that we do have in place, as well as possibly answer any questions that you might have related to us. Joined the district in 2007. The board created our department in 2006. Actually, I think I came in 2006. This is my 7th year. But the Department of Safety, Security, and Emergency Management. I know that when this district for 7, 8 years now has said clearly that safety is the #1 priority. And while budgets have declined, one of the good things is that our department has increased. And it's done it scrappily, I guess I would say. We almost have to be pirates. I think Mr. Van Camp called us pirates one time when he was still with the district. We've gone out and we've gotten about $2 million in grants, and we've done some pretty innovative things while other places have constricted in the security program. When I talk to parents, I kind of explain the main things that we have in place don't cost extra money, which is clearly the supervision. At any given time, one of our students has a number of adults within 20 or 30 feet of them. And all of the things that we do is we supervise and we train people, and we expect for people to notice things that are going on that might not be appropriate, that they send up the ladder, that then cause many of our systems and our training and our resources to come into play. The next major thing that we are constantly improving is the access control to our facilities. Many of these facilities built at a time when security was not to the standard where it is now, but we want to be able to create, where we can, single points of entry to our facilities, as well as record those that are coming and leaving our properties through the Raptor system and various tools that we have. Our planning is super important. We have a specific, I call it a critical incident plan, not a crisis plan, because we'd like our critical incidents to not become crisis. But we have a specific plan for each school. We don't release it. It's not a public record. We don't give copies to parents. But we do talk to it, and we train to it, and it's very specific to each facility. Leon County's plan was used as the model for a 13-county area in our region. So our staff has actually gone out and created over 150 K-12 plans within our region. Probably the most important thing, and I could list it first, is communication. All the different means of communication. I know that whenever we have an incident or even a staff issue, the superintendent and his key staff spends a lot of time about how to communicate with parents. When it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, how much to release, when to release it. We understand the anxiety that a lot of national news stories create. A lot of boards and other places around the United States have acted. They've stepped out pretty quick, created committees and panels and requested town hall meetings, and all of that is understandable. But the most important thing we can do is reassure parents that not just what we do after Sandy Hook, but what we do every day is important in our security plan. So communications are first. Day to day, most of our money is spent on the most expensive item is our school resource deputy program, among the best in the state. Lieutenant Robbins in the back, daily partner with us. We have about 23 full-time officers that we split the cost with the sheriff's office. The overall program is a little over $2 million a year. Very expensive, but very effective. We'd love to be able to extend that to every school. And hopefully in the future, funding models make that a reality, because it's not just the idea of an armed person on campus or an armed officer on campus, but all the other tools that they bring to the job. We were really innovative, I think, in creating a district security center. We have a 24-hour facility that monitors all of our schools. We have over 1,800 security cameras in our schools. We monitor our own alarms. And the facility is a resource not only for the community, but for our principals constantly. If they need to put a watch order on their facility over a weekend, many successes in that program. Buddy Triquet does a great job running that. To give you just a snapshot of an example, over our entire holiday season this year, we had 0 burglaries. That may sound remarkable to some people that we would have any, but I can tell you 50 public school facilities that are wide open, we do often during that period of time have some issues, minor, but we felt it very important that over the holiday break we had nothing. I thought it was worth saying. Our security center, which most of you have visited, it's pretty state of the art. It's actually the backup emergency operations center for the county. The emergency operations center that's on the 4th floor of the jail. Should something happen where that facility not be operable, they would come use ours. We funded that with back-to-back grants in partnership with the sheriff's office. It is state of the art, and we're also now offering it to other school districts that don't have the same resources. We currently monitor, most people don't know, but we monitor the intrusion alarms for Wakulla County schools. We're able to track the location of all of our school buses through the GPS software at the same facility. Our buses have emergency contact buttons that if they were to activate them, it would contact our facility, which also has access to the emergency radios of both police and fire. So it's a very, very workable system. That same facility also has the ability to contact and put out emergency messages to every one of our parents. We could do that instantly, record a message in the principal's voice, an automated voice. We can do it in other languages, but we could put that out. Switching gears a little bit, we obviously with the Jessica Lunsford Act, huge changes in the requirements to background and screen not only our employees, but our vendors and select volunteers. Our fingerprint office currently conducts more than 7,000 level 2 backgrounds every year out of that little office right here on Pensacola Street. Mr. Kimbler, Donald Kimbler, another coordinator of our department, does a great job there. We collaborate with many different organizations that provide services to the district, both emergency first responders, but also all of our support units in the district. You mentioned a few here. Our transportation department, probably daily. Our biggest liaison with that is Mr. Jamie Meeks, does a great job with our department, handling a lot of the issues that may come up within transportation. Facilities and maintenance, every time I call them, it's something very expensive that I'm requesting, so we do a good job working with them. Teaching and learning. Anytime we want to do training and cut into classroom time or instructional time, it's very challenging, but we have to work with our partners. And then obviously intervention services and everything that has to do with kids. I'll close with how we kind of operate our system and then take any questions. The state's emergency management is set up in 4 areas: preparedness, prevention, response, and recovery. Everything we do, we need to speak to of how we would have prepared for it, how we try to prevent it, how we would respond to it, and how we would recover from it. So all of those things that I mentioned in terms of physical security and planning and training, all comes into part in those 4 phases. So thank you for the opportunity to brief you.
Thank you for being here, John. Let me just say, and board members, I suspect that you will agree, we have gotten many questions, many emails from parents. What are you doing? What's happening now to make sure that our children are more safe? And so the report that you're giving tonight is so important. I wish there could be some way, Mrs. Superintendent and the television staff, that we could show this segment over and over again, because you mentioned and answered many of the questions that we've gotten from our parents. We thank you for what you do, and I'm sure we have some more questions. And I'll let board members speak, and then I'll ask mine, okay? I saw Mr. Van Camp, then Ms. Lewis Butler. Thank you.
Yeah. John, just to, one of the areas that we're, of course, reading a lot about nationally and multi-agency approach is in the mental health assessment. Not putting you on the spot or an answer tonight, but at some time at a future, meeting with this, because I think it's an area now that even other agencies like law enforcement, U.S. Attorney's Office, other groups are trying to get a handle on the interagency cooperation with mental health assessment, because sometimes outside the school environment, there are other agencies know a lot more about our kids than we might know about. But we've always been a community of a good interagency agreement between the Sheriff's Office, our office, Department of Health, others. But I'd be interested sometime knowing if this is an area that there is a role for us to play, and a little bit maybe what is actually happening, within our community on mental health assessments.
Sure.
We know we've read about it in every article, and I know that even from the U.S. Attorney's Office, there's some monies and things that probably going to come down to communities, to study this or to pilot this area. So just some point in time, if that was an area, that you could share. And then I need to, I need to correct one little thing that Mr. Hunkiar said, because he came to our district, and really revived a healthy school, a Safe Schools, Healthy Students grant that we had received, and where he took those 26 cameras we had. We've come a long way since those first 26 cameras that were put out there. But I did need to correct his comment about pirates. Really what happened there was I went to his office one day and knocked on the door of the little portable over there, and he said, "Who is there?" And I said, "The pirates." And he said, "Well, what do they want?" And I said, "Lessons." You have to think about that one for a while.
I spoke to the DAC. I believe they mentioned it in the report they gave. But we kick around a lot of topics around our office, and we talked and looking at obviously this last horrific event. And what I believe is that those events are prevented in the family. Okay, that families usually have knowledge of the capabilities or the problems people are presenting. But what I would say is that I am super confident that our counselors, principals, teachers are in fact preventing these things every day. There's no telling what has been prevented. Right. Off the top of my head, I know of an incident I briefed the superintendent on that was handled excellently by one of our high schools. But on the mental health piece, we did meet with the U.S. Attorney, and even in the policy development that's going on now, you'll hear a lot about threat assessment or formalized threat assessment. I would just say in sum that this board should feel very good about what's out there to identify people that come in our know that could present a problem to us, and that it's acted on.
Good, thank you.
Was there? Ms. Lewis Butler?
Yes.
And then Mr. Superintendent?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hunkiar, you and your staff, what you all do daily. Our number one priority, safety. I know about a month or so ago, I received this frantic call from a parent late one night, and when she was so upset about her a child not being home, and all at once I just thought about Mr. Hunkiar. I said, well, I got to call him right now. And I'm sorry to have intruded on you while you're in the movie. I said, where are you? I'm coming out of the movie. But one thing I like as a leader, Mr. Hunkiar, you took care of the matter. And I also like the way you followed through with the superintendent, and you followed through and called me back. I was at ease. Thank you for what you do daily, even 24 hours.
Thank you. I forgot to mention one person. That's Chris Petley.
Yeah.
He helps me a lot in terms of the communication piece, and especially communicating to you. I can track him down anywhere, and he's always available to do that. But yeah, I watched the movie Zero Dark 30, and when you
Chris.
called, and it only took 2 minutes to get out, and it was fine.
Okay, one thing else I'd like to ask you about. I know I think it's a part of your record as well. Fence around schools.
Right.
Are you looking at that with Mr. Byrd as well?
Yes. Couple years after I arrived here, Mr. Albritton and Mr. Byrd and the people that run the capital outlay program invited me to present. And at that time, we came up with 5-year fence plans. And that was to take, starting with our elementary schools,
Right.
moving through middle and high schools are much more of a challenge, but it's a different culture completely. And that is to create fence plans that will give us a single point of entry at all of our elementary schools. I can tell you we're about 2 years ahead of schedule on that. We have met, if there's 4 or 5 principals that are watching this that know they haven't been gotten to yet, I have already talked to them. And we already have those last few schools in the design and architect phase, and we will hopefully have those done by the end of this school year.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. John does a great job. A couple
He
things
does.
I just wanted to reflect on as I'm sitting here is where we are today, where we were 6 years ago. And Mr. Van Camp knows because he was part of my original team when I first came in, and we talked about this, and John's done a great job with this. But one of the issues I want to make sure everybody understands, no matter what you're doing, this board, this superintendent, this district, if there's new ways to use technology in order to keep our children safe, we're going to look at those, and we're going to be ready to embrace those. We've already are having opportunities to possibly put on a conference, a safety conference for other districts to come to. We've had requests for that. We're currently working on that. We've got people that want to see what we're doing. The other day, we had a superintendent's forum. We had 12 superintendents here. We had individuals that went into our safety and security center to look at it, to think about that right now with the school board meetings going on, where we have eyes on our schools. We do. They're watching our schools, seeing what's going on. To see the screen light up, not only there, but at Ronnie's shop, to watch our buses as they go out every morning with the GPS, to see something going on with having the ability to call back in the cameras that are on buses that are there to make sure what's going on. So we've done a lot in this district, but even with all that, things can happen. We've seen that, and we always want to be looking at keeping this as our number one priority. And again, looking at technology, because technology is the key to a lot of this. There's new technology, there's new ways that are being developed right now, throughout this country. And we're going to take a look at those and always be ready with that to do everything we can to keep the safe environment. Not only, I talk a lot about physical safety, but one of the most important things, I think the schools are one of the safest places that you can be. But I want our parents to be emotionally safe. I want them to feel good about our schools, feel good about dropping their kids off every day. And I want our kids to feel that way. So if somebody comes and says something to us, we assume it's true. Somebody says they're going to do something, we assume it's true. And I tell parents that, don't, if they say it, we believe it, and we're going to react to it. And that's our philosophy, and we're going to continue that, and I appreciate the board's support of that.
And we support you in that effort and every thought and comment along those lines, Mr. Superintendent. John, we still are mispronouncing your last name, but you've not mind for a while, and so we just love you so much more for what you do. I continue to be concerned about the mental health issues, and since I've been on this board, having been a trained counselor myself, I would love for the day to come, and I understand where dollars are, but while you out there doing these wonderful things, should you come across any avenues where there can ever be any dollars so that we can hire counselors and place them in our schools, I just believe that the day will be more enhanced and the optimal learning opportunities for our children would be increased. We need, and I'm preaching to the choir, my colleagues already know that's where I am, but, and I know parents are doing the best they can, some of them, and yes, they have some parental responsibilities there, but there's just such a great need for our children on a day-to-day basis to have access to counseling to help them. So I push for that even harder today.
Sure.
And with everything that's on television and with everybody being taught how to do whatever it is they need to do from television, I wish we had a way that we could teach us to get along and to be safe. So if you find some dollars as you're about Washington, New York, and these other places that you dream of going, bring them back and give those dollars and the grants to the superintendent staff so that we can find some counselors.
Having worked elsewhere, and when I talk to people that do my job elsewhere, we're lucky that the districts put security in the right place.
Yes,
because
that's true.
Sometimes the hierarchy, it's not always in the right place. And since I've been here, I'm amazed. I call back from where I came and I say, when I want to bring a new initiative, I go see my boss, Dr. Henderson. Mm-hmm. And he gives me nothing but complete support. Mm-hmm. It moves up, superintendent puts it on the agenda, you ask some questions, and it's done. As long as it's fiscally responsible and we're not creating new unfunded positions. But so therefore, the ability to get things done by where you all have placed security in the district's hierarchy, I really appreciate it.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Comment, Ms. Rasmussen?
Just briefly, Mr. Hunkiar, first of all, I'm so glad, Madam Chair, that you thought to ask Mr. Hunkiar to find the mental health grants, because he is a great grant writer. And he has come up with some very creative, he's like, yeah, don't add that to my job description. But really, if you do see anything out there,
Yes.
please help the rest of the district, because
Yes.
I couldn't agree more. I really want to hasten to underscore what the chairman has said, which is just about the entire learning environment. Even the things that we talked about recently when the Student Advisory Council did the PR piece that you guys did on teen suicide and anxiety,
Yes.
and that can translate into security risks for other students who may be, in the vicinity of a child who may be really suffering, and the parent may or may not be sufficiently aware of that. So I wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention that even though I applaud, and I really do applaud the priority that we've placed on safety and security, especially in light of the horrific incidences that we've seen. I heard a quote recently that I want to lend to the superintendent and to Mr. Hunkiar, and that was, a good manager does things right, but a good leader does the right things.
Yes.
And you all have really had the foresight to prepare for the unthinkable. And so to that end, I commend you and I thank you. That said, I have heard from a lot of parents who are absolutely horrified at the idea that we would need to have fences or cameras or security guards or armed law enforcement officers or anything like that on our campuses. And I think it is such a difficult task that we have to find the right balance of not scaring our children. I think we've done a great job with the Sheriff's Department utilizing law enforcement officers not just as an armed, an armed presence, but also to teach the classes that they teach in law enforcement and the way that they interact with the students, and they provide such a great role model for our students. So I really appreciate the fact that you all are there with a presence, not to be just a scary, enforcer, but to help befriend our students and help them see the good that can come from those relationships. So I just wanted to at least acknowledge the difficult balance that we sometimes face with that. Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Chair, if I could, I appreciate you bringing that up, Ms. Rasmussen, because when this issue first came up, I think a lot of people in the community didn't realize how long we've had an SRO program in our school district. We've had, how long, John, have we?
Mid-'80s, from what I understand.
Mid-'80s.
Since I was teaching.
81? That's early 80s.
81. So think about this, and Sheriff Campbell, Sheriff Boone, the individuals would help start this program. And one of the things that's evolved in this program, I think is very important, is they're in the classroom teaching classes.
That's right.
This isn't about, like John mentioned, it having an armed law enforcement officer on campus. It's the communication piece. It's somebody that our students look up to, somebody that they talk to in the classroom, somebody that parents can sit down and talk to about a community issue. So the real value of that program is communication. It's not the fact that they're armed in a school, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because I had people start to, as this developed, why are you asking for individuals to come into the school, that are armed to be there with our children? I said, well, they've been there for, 30 years or more, and so that's the reason why they're there. But I think I want to compliment Sheriff Campbell on that too, because this program has changed over the years.
Yes, it has.
It's changed into a leadership type program. And it's very important, and I think it's one of the best programs in the state. So I appreciate that, Ms. Rasmussen, you bringing that up.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Van Camp.
Just let me add a point to what the superintendent just said. One of the things that amazes me is with our resource officer program is the number of our officers that have committed their lives to this, the number that have stayed with us for so many years doing this. I know in many cases the resource officer is the number one counselor. In other words, they're the one they go to first sometime, with that. But I think we're fortunate here that we've had some of the greatest resource officers that have just committed their lives and working with kids. And, and we really should commend them for that and appreciate what they have done.
The two gentlemen behind me that I mentioned, Mr. Takei and Mr. Meeks, I don't know, combined, I guess, 100 years worth of SRO to them.
At least.
But also have both represented the major agency in the state as presidents of that organization.
Right,
I
yeah.
give them a hard time on their advanced age, but really, they've done
And we have
well.
a resource officer sitting back here that, I still thank him for helping me get my daughter through school.
Great. Ms. Liz Butler.
Yes, I wanted to add to that, having taught in the system for 30 years and having had Mr. Meeks as one of my deputies, SROs did an excellent job, and as I am delighted and happy that you're still with us, Mr. Meeks. But what I wanted to share about, as the superintendent touched on, classroom, I had the opportunity to have SROs in my classroom who taught science, fingerprinting, and different curriculum that for the students. And this way, the students became like understanding why the SROs are in our schools. They're there to preventions. I see them as preventions, and they're very proactive with the students. And they become a part of the school family when they're at the schools and an environment. So SROs are very much needed, and over the years, they have done an excellent job. And I like to commend them for the works, and Sheriff Campbell for allowing this to continue, and the superintendent and the school board for making sure that we buy into this program and making sure that our schools are safe. And now we're looking at the elementary school. I think the city is making sure that we're having some type of security with our elementary school, and this is all good. But as my colleagues have stated about being more proactive with the counselors, I think that's really, really needed, because when we take care of our students and their concern, then we're being more proactive with the causes that happen and the effects that happen to our students today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Liz Butler. Thank you, Ms. Hunkiar. We appreciate the good work that you and your team are doing. Continue to keep us safe, and I hope that parents have had most of their questions answered. And if they haven't, then I expect that they will probably call you tomorrow.
That'll work.
Thank you.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair,
Yes, Ms.
back to your